Public Safety Committee of Rutherford County. And we'll begin. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
So move.
Got a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you. Okay. The OSHA report, Mr. Good isn't in here, so and I think he doesn't have a budget item with it, so we can just take a quick gander. And just to make sure you all know, the ones that aren't presenting their budget tonight, if they didn't have a budget amendment, they could elect to just send in their report and not show up.
Mr. Chairman.
So the motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I saw Mr. Nunley earlier. He may not still be here. So do the same with his.
I'll make a motion that we approve the ambulance service report as submitted.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. What you were just taking a second or two longer on. He likes to put in his attaboys for to look at. We are going to do the drug court last, and we'll get juvenile retention next. Ms. Duke put on the first page, she put a copy of the agenda today. It's just to make sure we knew that she just had a report.
Replace this person with the person.
We have a motion for the report.
motion, we accept the report as is.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next is County Fire and Rescue Report.
Mayor, do you know if the weather has caused fire and rescue to be more busy than normal?
I don't know, but I haven't heard. And Mr. Gurley may could tell us if he knows.
Joe?
He might have a better response than I would.
All your public safety has been busier the past week.
Such as, what have they been responding to?
Well, if those are from the sheriff's office as well as others, if you have blocked right-of-ways and such as that, they're usually the first folks to get the call. Of course, highway will end up being the ones that clean it up in a lot of cases, but they'll sometimes be called out in those cases. But yeah, they also, people, the fire department folks using alternative means to heat and not using them properly causes issues for them too.
Okay. I just wondered if some people, if they had trees down and broke their power lines, and who would they call for help? Would they say, hey, I don't have any electricity, and call emergency
Well, the first call would be to
management?
the power company, and there's 4 different power companies that service this this county. So, but if it's a situation where they, like we had a kind of stealing my thunder on my report, but we did have a shelter on standby with the American Red Cross, and we didn't have to use it last week. So,
I guess my concern was somebody's out in a rural setting and they can't get off of their property because of the ice, and they have no means to heat their house. What do they do? What do we suggest that they do?
well, first off, they can contact any one of the public safety agencies to get contact, and they'll get in contact with us if it's something beyond their capability.
Like the sheriff's department?
Sheriff's Department, yes.
Okay, thanks.
I've noticed they had 17 power line downs in the report here.
Looks like the number of fires were up quite a bit
Yeah,
this month.
that
too.
was January
Yeah.
though. So there's the cold weather there also. When you're through, I'll entertain a motion on fire and rescue.
I so moved to accept the
We have a motion, we have a second.
second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Sheriff's.
Good evening.
I just got a couple things tonight. Got a car that got totaled, so our First Amendment is insurance recovery funds of $10,261, and we'd like to put that back into our new vehicles line item in the sheriff's office. I would go buy new.
Not for that price,
Not
but
for that price, I wish.
I saw his lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I knew it. Yeah. He beat you to the punch there. Okay. And you-
And that's the only amendment I have for tonight, so.
You heard the request. We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
This is
Anyone?
so- Second, do I hear a second? Okay. That was a tough one. That's all you can use that for, basically. Okay. All right. You-
The other, our report.
And so, do I Want to approve the budget request, signify by saying aye.
We need a roll call.
Roll call. Thank you.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips, Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
And then we have our report, as usual.
Okay. Anything
To
significant?
bring to your attention on 54-210 get down to it here, 452, utilities are starting to run low. It's at 25%. The water is what's killed us because we had that meter fixed, and so we've averaged $10,000 a month more in water usage than we did the prior year before, because the meter was faulty as per the, I forget which department it is, the Murfreesboro
Water Department.
Water
We've
Department.
talked about this numerous
We've talked
times.
about it before, yeah. So if we have some other line items hold out, though, we might be able to do it as an internal move later on down the road, but we're just going to see where we're at when we get to that point. So I just want to make the committee aware, and that's
Just a reminder.
just a reminder.
Yeah. We had last year with somebody else. It was when Vernon or one of them or something. They've been going for a couple of years with
Oh, yeah.
no payment.
Yeah.
Something.
All of a sudden, you gotta pay up. So, but other than that, that's about it.
Well, we'll take a minute, we'll look at the
Yes.
report. If anyone has any
Any
questions, feel free. Gotta ask, the food's in good shape now, right?
It's,
Thank you very much.
Dogs will, so.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll entertain a motion on the report.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Mike.
Okay, we've got our commendations this month. Everybody approves that's for Mr. Phillips down. So, thank you, Miss Becky.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Those are all the accommodations. Also, need to let everybody, we made this decision today, March 7th from 2 to 12. Hope we'll see each and every one of y'all there from Public Safety, but we will be having the grand reopening of our booking division, the booking area of the Sheriff's Office. It has been down since approximately December the 28th for remodel. It will come back online hopefully that afternoon after we do the grand opening. But the inmates have done all the labor. We've just paid for all the materials. So it's been time consuming, but well worth it, we think, of to last us for a little while. You know, actually going into the future, there's going to have to be some other issues addressed within booking and how we book in our prisoners. But right now, we've remodeled it, and looking forward to seeing y'all there and or the public. This is our first to get out the word to the public. Anybody who wants to come, it's open to the public. So there'll probably be quite a few of the public to come and see the booking area. It's one time you can get in there and get out without it costing you really anything, or be able to just walk in and out.
You did say get out, right?
Yes, you will be able to get out. I will let you out.
We don't even need to get out of jail free.
No jail, get out of free card. Just come on in through the Sally Port and walk on in and look around and see what all we've done and see how the flow of it works, and then head on out.
What time is it?
From 12 to 2 on March 7th. Also, do we need to get with y'all? We need to get mayor's office. How are we going to plan our budget? Sitting down, we want to do it at the sheriff's office like we did kind of last year.
I think we'll probably do it over here.
Okay.
And that's just because I
We
think
would
that,
prefer, we would prefer for this committee to come and walk through and see some of the things that we have, because we have some major issues that need to be addressed that you all need to lay your eyes on.
well, the reason probably up here is, well, I think we will have it up here. The reason is there's probably gonna be quite a few people that wanna visit.
Okay. Well, then, are
We'll
y'all
set
going to
up-
schedule a meeting to come and
Yeah.
view the sheriff's office
We'll
before
do
this
that.
meeting?
Mhm.
Okay. That would be great.
We may even try it, well, we'll schedule one,
Okay.
okay?
That'll work.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we've got drug court report, Mr. King.
I'll try to be as brief as I can.
Well, we're, got about 8 items on here. You want to start at the top?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The first part I have is just to let you know, these are 2 funding agreements that the department has received. As you'll see on your things, one's for ADAT and one's for SPOT. This is, the program is allowed to bill the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services for those individuals that do not have insurance for their alcohol and drug treatment that's provided. This was a contract that's awarded every year. This period was July 1st to June 30th of 2015. It's a fiscal year agreement. I'm not sure this was ever brought before by my predecessor before taking over. I saw this, just wanted to bring it to your attention to let you know that this is in place. One's for $20,000, and then the other is for $5,000.
And one's the ADAT and the other's the SPOT?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they're all funded through the state for uninsured?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they're the same year in and year out?
Yes, well, we can go up depending on the number of participants we have that do not have insurance that would qualify for the program. Typically around each May of every year, we'll be allowed to give an estimated idea of how much money might be needed, so that amount could increase or decrease every year.
Do you verify their insurance eligibility?
Yes, sir. When they come into the program, they sit down with the case manager. They go over to see whether or not they have TennCare, or if they do not have insurance, or if they have other Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Cigna, things like that that might cover alcohol and drug treatment.
Would you have any trouble spending that money?
No, sir. This doesn't even cover it. We will run dry probably in March from this little allotment here.
Okay.
But it's something coming in.
I thought everybody now had to have insurance.
You're supposed to.
Okay.
You are required.
But thank goodness we're not the legal arm, right? So you heard the request. Can look it over. You can look it over the pages. Mr. King says it's basically the same each and every year, and I don't remember it coming before this committee before. So, if someone wants to make a motion, feel free.
I move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
That's both of them.
Second.
We have a second. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
The next item, I'll go to the policy procedures last, that may be the more strenuous part of it. This is just kind of our report for drug court and DUI court, just to kind of give you the updated statistics. I'll be very brief. One of the main things, especially in the DUI court for this month, we were able to bring in and collect over $6,600 in court costs and fines. This is to ensure that the individuals that come through the program are paying off their costs and fines to the courts, as well as restitution payments. We also brought in a little over $500 in the DUI program for program fees. As you can see, we have a total currently of 21 participants in the DUI court. In the drug court, we have a total of 36 participants. Brought in a little over under $1,000 in program fees. We were able to successfully collect a little over $1,200 in court costs and fines on behalf of those. And the rest is just kind of the breakdown of their drug of choice. It's very similar to the remainder of the period. And as you can see, their counseling sessions and their drug screens current to date.
Have you reviewed running totals like from year to year to see how we're comparing from last year to this year and year before, and running any kind of scale to see how we're performing as it relates to number of cases and all those kinds of things.
I've looked at the surface. When I have a little bit more time, I can give you a little bit more of an in-depth analysis as far as past trends and histories.
No hurry, but I think that might be helpful as we go forward too with some other initiatives that
Yes, sir.
that you'll be undertaking to kind of look at those things to see how we're performing from year to year and caseloads and those kind of things. I'd kind of like to take a look at that anyway.
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to bring that before then.
Once again, no hurry. I know what your plate is like. So.
Yes, sir. We're trying to. Typically, I can tell you from the drug court standpoint, our max capacity is 60 individuals. But given the base of our current base load of staff, the DUI court, the maximum we can have is 25. We are looking at trying to get to max capacity and then increase that as well, having staff separate their time from morning and afternoons to pick up additional work so that we can serve more people, bring more money into the program, things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of your problems from prescription drugs and marijuana?
Yes, sir.
Basically your-
That's typically what we see a lot of. It kind of involves in trends. I think last month we saw more in prescription drugs than we did see in marijuana, and I think if that is correct, I think we'll see more and more prescription as our problem, number one drug of choice.
Yeah, the court costs and fines, do you get to keep any of that, or does that go back to the court system?
I believe every offender or defendant that comes in and is charged with a drug-related crime, $75 of that goes to a drug court fund.
Mm-hmm.
The clerk keeps $5 of that $75 fee for its operations. The drug court will receive $70. So the remainder of this money goes back to fund the courts and the other programs that's mandated by the state. So this is just a way to ensure that those participants coming into our program are meeting all the obligations that they're required to meet.
There's no further questions on both with DUI and drug reports. I'll take a motion for both of them.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
The next part, if we want to go into the policy procedures, or the other things I want to talk to this body about, is the Veterans Court. There's been an interest in or trying to pursue a potential Veterans Treatment Court program similar to the drug court, the DUI court program. After speaking with the mayor, I believe it probably the safest bet is to seek a pilot program at this point, based on a couple of our individuals that's come into the program that are veterans, to serve to see whether or not this would be a viable program before we just jump full-fledged into it. If we do go into a full-fledged Veterans Treatment Court, it will require staffing, potentially 1 to 2 employees to help cover that caseload. So with us having the ability to serve 60 in drug court, and right now we're only at 36, I do have the flexibility of using current staff to try that program and to see whether or not it would be a viable effort. So I wanted to get this body's approval to kind of seek that and to see if there's an interest from this committee in trying to create a Veterans Treatment Court going forward.
This has been talked about for a good long while, as most of you know, and it appears to be a growing problem in our society a little bit, and we think that there'll probably be grant funds available for, maybe grant funds available to fund this thing in the future, and I just think it's a great idea, especially with some of our vets coming back and suffering from some of the things that they do. So I really think, especially if it's a pilot program, there's absolutely nothing to lose and a lot to learn by that.
Yes, sir. And typically what we would need to do is the Veterans Affairs Department will handle all the treatment of the veterans. Basically what this department will do is to do the case management and the court monitoring, and then also doing the drug screens. So a lot of that treatment will be sent out to the VA to handle. We would just be basically monitoring and marshaling those individuals into the court.
The counties, any other counties similar to us have something in place right now? Is there any others that are like it?
Yes, sir. Montgomery County and Clarksville, and then Shelby County and Memphis currently have one operational. Davidson County and Knoxville are also looking at starting one as well.
Montgomery County, they what, several years old?
Only 1 year. They're recent. But
You're getting feedback from them?
yes, sir. Deputy Mayor, myself, Judge McFarland, and several of the others went up and observed the Montgomery County Veterans Treatment Court to see how that was operating, how they ran their program, to get a lot of feedback.
You envision something very similar to that?
Yes, sir, similar. I think a lot of it would be similar to what we do already. It's just turning that treatment part over to the VA instead of we doing our own treatment.
Jeff, I know you've been involved in this process quite a bit, intimately involved in this process quite a bit. Are you satisfied with this trial?
Yes, sir. I think this is sort of the walk phase where we figure out especially how we plug into the VA. Montgomery County just received their first grant, so we need to kind of do the same thing they did, get our program together and then apply for the grant and if it's successful and go forward.
You envision, Mr. King, how big this may become?
It's all really going to depend upon the district attorney and the judge and the funding mechanism that's in place. There's obviously going to have to be a need. What I'm getting to is in drug court and DUI court, we are prohibited from taking anyone that has a violent history or a violent offender, anyone that has a gun charge or any assault. It's envisioned that our vets coming back over, a lot of them may have domestic assault charges, things like that as a relation. So it's going to have to work closely with the DA's office to see whether or not they will allow that type of individual coming in the program. But it's hard to tell.
Hard to say.
Yes, sir.
The big thing is, it seems to me, I happen to be a veteran, and it just seems to me that we do in this country for a lot of other people, and we do very little for our veterans. And I've just seen that over the years because of basically staying associated with it. And I think anything we can do is good.
Yes, sir.
So, do we need a motion?
Probably be good.
All right, so you heard the request. We have a motion to approve the continuation of the pilot program.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Last thing on the agenda here, the item is our policy procedures updates. Currently, I am just been notified that we are going to have our 4th audit in our programs for both the drug court and the DUI court program. I have 3 audits in March, and I'll have 1 in June. So as part of those audits, they send out kind of guidelines and advisories of kind of the way we're supposed to operate our programs. As a result, we have updated the department's policies and procedures to reflect those changes and needs, and that's what was sent in as well. I have ran these policy and procedures by Human Resources as well as a county attorney. They have both approved after reviewing, and so I'm bringing it to you today for your blessing.
Is there anything in there that's major or disturbing, or is it a lot of just housekeeping type of stuff?
A lot of it's housekeeping. Basically it's an overlay of how the program operates. A lot of it's to ensure Title VI compliance, that we have availability for those with vision impairing, hearing impairing, Spanish handbooks, materials, all those things are available. That we have a safety evacuation plan in place if there is a catastrophic event, that we know what to do, that we have staff CPR certified, those types of things. So it's just to ensure that as a alcohol and drug treatment provider, that we have safeguards and measures in place to protect those individuals that we are serving.
there's policies and procedures that are in effect right now.
Yes, sir.
Are any major things in there that you've come across that you're recommending changing, that needs to be changed?
No, sir. This is just an updating of the program and how the program is operating. Basically, this is just these are basically taken after the guidelines that the state hands down and mandates as part of alcohol and drug court treatment providers.
Okay. Mayor's office has gone through this, and the
The mayor has not reviewed these documents.
okay,
Human Resources and the attorneys have. Okay.
and Jim Cope's office has reviewed it and it finds everything the way that it ought to be.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
To my knowledge.
And this is policies or that are handed down by the state, is where this comes from?
Yes, sir. The state has guidelines for each treatment court that they must operate under, basic components, different types of what treatment's allowed, how you're allowed to operate, what you're allowed to do and not do, those type of things. And this is kind of a narrative format of those policies. And then as a licensee and a holder for alcohol and drug treatment providing services, we are required to have certain guidelines and certain things in place in the policy and procedures manual that outlines those particular items.
This is just.
This is a
made
reflection
for-
of those, correct.
Yeah.
And then there's 20 attachments that I did not send to you, you all, but they're here if anyone would like to look at it. This is kind of what our program's in place. But
And your court team, this is the usual court team that,
yes, sir.
for a unit like that.
Yes, sir.
What you're saying is nothing has changed the way you were operating before?
No, sir.
Since you've been here and to your knowledge beforehand? If this is just updating,
Correct.
maybe all those procedures that you did weren't all in here, possibly?
I think there may be a few, but this is just to write down so that if anyone came in, they could take this book and say, this is how you run your department, this is how you
Okay.
run your court.
All right.
They could take this and operate it.
Okay.
The audits that you'll go through over the next couple of months will be a direct audit of what's in that policies and procedures manual, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Ms. Shelton, tell me something. We can send this out, PDFs on email to the 21 commissioners. That's not too much of a problem, is it? Okay. Just, I'm telling you, I saw 25 and 23 pages. And I've gotten longer than that before.
Well, it's on SharePoint.
This is hundreds of pages here.
You
Yeah, but I'm.
I saved, I didn't attach the attachments.
That's
I can't
without the
need it.
attachments, I think, but, yeah. Or
You can't do that by email, but you can.
could put it on SharePoint, okay. Then if we have a motion on this, I would like the approval to be also that it's put on SharePoint, so it's available to all commissioners, okay? So when it comes up, if this comes up before the county commission, everyone will have an opportunity to look at it in advance. That's the main reason I'm there. Yeah. You can spend a minute and check it. I don't know what you're gonna change or anything like that, but,
I would say HR has already gone through it, and our county attorney's already gone through it. I'm moved to approve and forward on to whoever we need to forward it on to. Who would that be?
Commission.
This is just for your information. I'm not sure it needs to go to anybody.
I mean, is there any requirement in the drug court or the DUI program that it has to have commission approval of these policies?
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Well, I mean, I was told by HR that it was approved by the commission back in 2002. That's all.
Okay, so we weren't here in 2002. I don't know, unless they have that requirement. I mean, we've got all kinds
Okay.
of policies in our various departments and other offices that we don't take to the full commission. But why don't you go ahead and do this? Approve this, and if necessary, we'll forward it on to the commission for final approval, if necessary, after we get legal advice.
That's the motion. Forward it if needed.
Okay, the second.
But you do want it on SharePoint,
If,
the entire document.
if it needs to
If
go
it's going to
further.
the full commission,
Yes.
we'll include putting it on SharePoint.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion to second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Did you put this together?
Yes, sir, I did.
God, you've been busy in the last month.
He has been extraordinarily busy, just a lot of very important things in a short period of time.
So I'll have a budget for you next month, the next session. And I'll also have an overlay to show you exactly how much money we were saving the county for our program. I think you'll be surprised to learn how much money we were saving.
Hopefully we can
Yes, sir.
Glad to
keeping
hear.
some out of our jails, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you been having, well, you've been doing all this piecing together, do you have any little kids you've had to
I have 3
help
boys.
you?
I have 3 boys.
With the
They
school?
haven't hurt. They haven't helped.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you much. All right. Okay. Now, we're ready for budgets. Ms. Tillage, domestic violence report.
Good evening. How is everybody?
How are you doing? Great.
I'm not sure which document you all will have before you first. But if you look at the revenue for the domestic violence court, you will see that our revenues, once we get to the budget, exceed the budget that we're requesting. We have 3 victim assistance assets that we receive monies from the court. And then we have a stop grant that is estimated about $45,491 that we received. That also I need to bring up is set up on 3-year increments. So the end of that stop grant would be this year, 2015, and I'd also like to ask for permission to reapply for that grant.
We should do that separately, right? Okay. And stop grant. And that's something that has no effect on the county, does it? There are no matching funds or in-kind matching?
There are, but within this 45,000, I believe 15,000 of that is matching by the county, but that's basically done through the money that we receive through our victim assistance assets. So
you pay for the matching part yourself?
Right. The domestic violence program is completely self-supporting. We don't take anything from the general fund.
So, I guess
And again, we make more money than we spend per year, so to speak. We take in more money than we spend each year.
So, you've heard the request. Do we have a motion on the stop grant?
To reapply, is that what you're on?
Yes, sir, because it's set up on 3 years. So the last time that we applied was back in 2012. They just sent out the information last week to reapply. So if we want to reapply, I have to first submit our intent to reapply and then submit all of the documentation.
This will also be a 3-year grant
Yes, sir.
for the same amount, like $45,000 plus a year?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They don't anticipate anything changing.
I move to approve that request.
We've got a motion to approve the request. We have a second.
And if that request could be to give permission to
Signature.
apply, and if a grant is received, accepted, and executed.
Yes.
With all signatures, right? That's executed. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second.
Okay, and then if we look at the,
Well, we got.
I'm sorry.
We got to vote on that.
This goes to budget, right?
Yes,
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
On that worksheet that you have there, that's the victim assistance access grants. There's 3 of those,
Yes, sir.
3 different ones?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We have 2 that are here in Rutherford County in our judicial building, and then 1 that comes from Smyrna, the court that they operate in Smyrna.
Okay.
This budget is basically just the same as she's operating even right now.
It is really
You
zero
remember we
based.
amended the budget and we changed part-time to full-time already this year. So this just reflects the continuation of the amended budget.
Missing.
So in essence, it's zero based.
It's a continuation
Yes.
budget, yes, sir.
And it includes the raises that are coming in?
Yes, sir. All of the budgets you see will have the step raises included. And I don't remember exactly last year, Mr. Shepherd, how we did this. I don't know whether we approved the budget or just accept the
Approved.
budget as presented.
Accept
What was
it.
the language on that? I'm not sure.
We accept it and it goes to budget.
Then it goes on to budget.
Right.
Yes.
If we have any changes, we make, but this is.
So this doesn't, in this particular budget, my recommendation will be the same, but some of these you're going to see, you won't see my recommendations yet until I see the whole picture.
Okay. So this one, what it is a continuation. Basically, they've included the step raises in the pay plan. And that's the basic difference from one year, from last year's to this, except that we also put the person to full-time.
Right, we,
Months ago.
a couple months ago.
So that's why, but as opposed to the amended budget, it's strictly continuation.
If expenses, or in essence the budget, is lower than revenue, what happens to that additional revenue?
It goes into a fund that's only available to use for these purposes.
Okay.
So at some point in the future, if something else we identify needs to be done, we have the dollars to try to do that with.
So when
We cannot move it anywhere else.
So when we reapply for a grant, they won't reduce that grant?
No.
No.
Not necessarily? Okay.
Well, that's
No,
how we-
and then if you remember, I'm sorry, as I was saying earlier, the last time that we came, when we took the 1 part-time personnel that I have to full-time, we also had the domestic violence program, which is the nonprofit organization here. We also gave them money out of that revenue so that they could get another personnel over there.
Move to accept the budget and forward, the
Second.
budget recommendation and forward on to our budget committee.
And I guess we'll call the roll on it. Is there any further
Who's
discussion?
second?
Yeah, Commissioner Gurley.
You can do by acclamation, or I'll be happy to roll call.
I think we can do it by acclamation since it's going forward. So all in favor of the proposed budget for 2015-16? signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Budget passes. Forward
Thank
to the
you.
budget. Thank
Y'all
you.
have a good night.
Thank you.
Mr. Gregory. Why don't we get a report first?
Yes, sir.
And we'll use-
A lot of information on there tonight, more than ever. And I'll explain a little. I see you're asking me.
Where are you gonna start?
I'll
The
start.
report?
I'll start with the report if that's fine, sir.
Okay.
All right. For the month of January, we had 413 animals that came into the shelter. 27.1% came from county jurisdictions. 16.7% came from the city of Laverne. 41.2% came from the city of Murfreesboro, and 15% came from the town of Smyrna. We had 141 animals that were adopted out, 169 animals that were euthanized, 75 animals that were reclaimed by their original owner. Our adoption and reclaim percentage for the month was 52.9%, and euthanasia rate was 41.4%. Our live release, when you factor in the animals that were surgery programs or could be released, such as the wildlife, our live release rate was 55.2%, and 29 animals that were reclaimed were from the surgery programs. We had 91 animals that remained in the shelter at the end of January, 2,082 people that visited the shelter, and 2,015 logged calls and voicemails for the month. 1,341 calls were were received, and 1,355 calls were completed. You can see the breakdown of those by jurisdiction as well. And we traveled 10,528 miles. Year to date, we've had 4,182 animals enter the shelter. We have an adoption reclaim percentage of 34% and a euthanasia percentage of 56.4%. We've had 13,307 people that have come into the shelter and 14,685 log calls and voicemails. We've had 10,989 calls that were received and 10,993 calls that were completed. And we traveled 72,841 miles. I think you all have this as a separate file, but it would be our rabies exposure and bite report for the month.
Just a question
Sure.
before we, on the last page. See, Laverne has 14.5% of the calls
Yes, sir.
to Laverne and 12.2 to Smyrna.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If you'll remember that our regular report goes fiscal year, our rabies and bite exposure report goes calendar year. For January, we had 24 bites that were reported. None of those animals were tested. We had 8 other exposures that were reported. 3 of those were tested. 1 did test positive. It was another skunk that got into it with a dog out in the Rockville zone.
Any questions on the report? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
A motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So what you got next?
Well, would you like to do the budget amendment while we're working on this year? For our budget amendment, we're asking to move money around within our budget to maintenance and repairs for buildings. We'd like to take money from maintenance agreements, other contracted services, and drugs and medical supplies. We have a hallway that goes between stray and adoption, and when the building was built, that hallway has just the vinyl tile, but that hallway gets, for lack of a better term, abused because there's constantly animals in there and crates in there while we're cleaning. It's nearly impossible for the janitorial staff to keep that hallway cleaned and waxed, and also there's a lot of water that gets into that, so it's seeping underneath that tile. We'd like to come in and put down an epoxy floor that matches the existing kennel areas in that area. It really should have probably been done when the building was built. And then also we have a janitorial closet that's off the admin hallway that constantly stays wet with water and whatnot, and those tiles are going to start coming up. So while they're doing the epoxy for that hallway, we'd like to have that closet done as well. The second portion of the budget amendment is asking to take money out of Paul's donation line to purchase additional caging and kennels for the vet area. So that would be additional money in the budget, but it does come from the donation designated specifically for Paul's.
No new money, just moving around.
Yes, sir.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes, sir.
No new. Okay, any questions? If not, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
And we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Are you okay with me jumping around a little bit
Yeah.
for a moment?
Well, we
All
got
right.
it.
There's a couple of things that you have on your, whatever that technology is. I'm not very up on that stuff. You have two. One's called Paul's Score Sheet 2014. The other's called Paul's Score Sheet 2015. Back when Deputy Mayor Davidson came on board, one of the things that he challenged each department to do was to have something called a balanced scorecard. Our department was already kind of working on what our short-term, long-term, those type goals were and how we plan to get there. And this kind of ties in exactly with the balanced scorecard. The 2014 scorecard are the things that our department accomplished or started working on during 2014. And the 2015 scorecard are things that we're going to work on this calendar year. They range from various things that takes our mission and breaks it down into different things as far as the first section is making sure that we maintain adequate employee training, volunteer training, conducting spay and neuter programs, enforcement of the law. The second portion is providing the best customer service to our citizens, both human citizens and animal citizens. And the third portion of that is outreach, education, increasing adoptions, decreasing euthanasia, those type things. So what we've used both of these documents to help build our budget for next year. So this is for your information. There's a lot of information in there, and I'll be happy if you have any questions. Please call or email me. I'll be happy to discuss that further with you. If we can go a little bit, I asked the mayor this, and when I presented my budget to him, if we can go backwards and start with revenue, if you all would give me that liberty, that I think will make things make a little bit better sense to you all when you see the worksheet for our budget for next year. If you all recall, when we passed the rules and regulations in November, there was an increase in the rabies license fee that was included in that. The fee went from $2 to $5 per animal. It was also written into the rules that a portion of that would go back to the department for public relations and/or spay and neuter programs. Our whole intent was to promote the department through adoptions, give us better outreach to the public, but also by having the spay and neuter programs be able to limit the number of intakes. Obviously, the less animals we have come in, the less animals we have to get adopted, and obviously the less animals that need to be euthanized. So if you look at our revenue for next year, our total revenue is $510,471, which reflects an increase of around $150,000, which is the rabies license increase, the $3 per tag. We did about $102,000 last year on that when it was $2, so we're projecting a $150,000 increase next year. As far as everything else on the revenue projections, those are pretty much the same as they are this year. If you recall, we get a contribution from the city of Murfreesboro, the town of Smyrna, and we have requested one from the city of Laverne. I did not include the city of Laverne's contribution into that figure because we haven't received that for, I believe it's been the last 2 years. So if we get it, that number will go up. If we don't, it will stay the same. The amounts to those towns, city of Murfreesboro and town of Smyrna, remain the same as they were this past year. Does that make sense to everyone?
And like the adoptions, that's basically what you did this past year, the 900 for dogs, 300 for cats?
Yes, sir. It's pretty close to those, yes, sir. Okay. And that number fluctuates up and down. We're basically back up to close to getting to where we were before we hit the recession in 2007, 2008. That number there is pretty hard to target because of our cats are all the name your own price adoption, so I can't say, hey, we adopted 100 cats at this price. That adoption fee fluctuates.
So, 510,000. This in this coming fiscal year you're figuring? And how much did you have this past year?
We projected $357,000 this past year. When I checked before I left, we were running at around 70% already collected thus far.
Okay, with 5 months to go.
Yes, sir.
4 months to go.
We should, based on the fact that we started increasing the license revenue on January the 1st, we'll see a 6-month increase for that this year.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is there any more questions about the revenue?
That date down at the bottom incorrect.
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir, it
Oh,
is.
that-
I didn't see that. I hope that's what you were pointing out to him. Yes, sir. All that doesn't transfer over, so it's easier just to pull that from a previous file to put in there for all that information. But yes, sir.
Okay.
So
Budget works.
if we want to go to the worksheet, yes, sir, that would be great. So I've told you all this on the revenue to state that when we originally met with the mayor regarding the increase in the license fee and whatnot, we had talked about $2 of the increase going back to Paul's for the PR and the spay and neuter programs. This budget reflects that. So when you look over at the end, you'll get a little bit of sticker shock because you'll see it went up $135,000, but $100,000 of that is offset through the additional revenue. Do we want to go line by line or just kind of hit the high points?
Well, we're locked in on a fair amount of the things, like the financial things. It just comes from the salaries and when it goes down through benefits.
Right.
And I do want
You may.
to ask the insurance. We haven't approved the insurance for starting at the beginning of next year. So this is an estimate by finance?
That is the number that's provided by finance for us, yes, sir.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to answer anything beyond that.
All right.
I'd like to hear what line items have an increase outside of personnel.
Okay.
What line items have an increase and the ones that have a decrease, and the reason that you're asking for that.
Okay. If I can go ahead though and address one of the personnel things, even though you asked for that to be omitted. If you can look at line 169, you can see that it shows a PR assistant, a surgery assistant, and a rescue behavior assistant. Those are all part-time positions, all funded using the license increase.
Okay.
If we go outside of personnel, line 302, which is advertising, that's an increase of $11,500, which again is all license fee increase for the promotion. Just a normal price increase for maintenance agreements. That's for our copiers. We have to pay a substantial amount to Chameleon, which is our software, for maintenance there. We asked for a $1,000 increase on line 335 for maintenance and repair of buildings. Our building turned 10 years old this year, so we're starting to have things that are requiring much more maintenance than it once did. Let's see here. An increase in line 357. That line is used to pay for emergency vet visits for folks that are on call. That line is also used for Dr. Dills when she takes vacation. We bring in a relief vet a couple of days a week so we can continue surgeries to keep our adoption floor full. Line 401, animal food and supplies, is for normal price increases, but we're also asking to be able to go to a uniform food. Right now, our food is just whatever's been donated, which is all mixed in, which causes intestinal issues and those type things with our animals. We'd like to go to just one sole source food to prevent those issues. Normal increases for custodial supplies, which is 410. 413 is drugs and medicals. 32,000 of that is out of the license fee, which is for the spay and neuter of 1,000 animals is what we projected to do the first year. If you take out that 32, it actually resulted in a little bit of a decrease.
Okay, so still, why is that one going up so much?
Because we're adding that additional 1,000 surgeries using the license fees. So,
You think it
right, we're doing our surgeries for basically $32 a piece.
Mm.
So that would offer 1,000 surgeries. Our initial plan was to offer that just for females so that we can make the most impact. Then once we kind of deplete the number of females that are coming in, then we'll start into the males. But we want to have the biggest initial impact that we can on decreasing our intakes. Office supplies, those are fairly normal increases. We have some printing that we're using more for the officers' forms that they post on folks' doors. Line 499, there's an increase there, $4,000. Again, that's using the license to provide equipment for the PR person. And then you get down into the 700 range, which are the capital expenditures. For the 709, last year we started a project that was our security camera upgrades, upgrading the server and adding additional security cameras, which was supposed to be a multiple year project. OIT was able, once they replaced one of their servers, to repurpose one of their servers. All we had to do was some upgrades to that, and we've gotten further along in the camera project than we'd originally anticipated. This year, this would finish out the camera project, security cameras within the office. It would provide just normal computer replacements, which we normally budget for. It would also provide a system for our officers to have better connectivity in their trucks, but also allow the office to be able to have a GPS system on those vehicles so we know where those officers are. We ran into some problems where there's been the time between calls based on mileage and based on the time that it took an officer to go from one call to the next where we couldn't account for. This program here will allow us to dispatch the closest officer to a call, but also have the supervisors and management know where that officer is at all times, which right now we don't. Line 718 and line 790. 718 is just for the normal replacement of our vehicles. As you recall, we have 10 vehicles in our fleet along with one spare, so we're on a rotation to try to replace one of those every year. 790, the majority of that is for the unit to go on the back of one of those vehicles. We've also requested that we provide armored vests for our officers. This is something that we've talked about for some time. However, it came more to light within the last few months when we actually had a gun pulled and pointed at one of our officers. There's a lot of animal control agencies across the country that are going to that. And this is something that we feel that for the protection of our folks, we need to start heading that direction. It's not something I necessarily like. It's sad that we have to come to that, but I also have to look out for the safety of my folks in the field. And those are the lines that were increased. Overall, our budget increased to $135,163, but again, $100,000 of that is offset by the revenue that we brought in with the rules change.
You coordinating the purchase of those vests through the sheriff's department?
HR has been working with us as far as getting the numbers and whatnot, and she's contacted the sheriff's department and gotten those numbers for those vests. Yes, sir. Like I said, it's awful that we have to go there, but when you have one of your officers nearly in tears because they have the gun pointed at them, I think we don't have a choice. And all of the items that are in the 708 through the 790 range are all the items that you have listed on the capital expenditure sheet. They all match. All those numbers are in there.
Okay. Those last three items, I just have a couple of questions on.
Yes, sir.
The AVL that or whatever it is to know where people are.
Yes, sir.
How reliable are those?
We've had a unit in a truck. OIT has purchased one of those units, and we tested it for a couple of weeks. It was very reliable. This officer was on call, and when they got to the office, I said, "You took this." I watched when their truck started moving that morning, and when they got to work, I said, "Here's the exact route you took." And I had somebody standing at the front door when it showed they turned onto AgriPark, turned on our parking lot, and went up there, and they were pulling the parking lot as soon as it said they were there. So it's very accurate.
What I'm getting at is I know several departments use those, and I know the assessor's office has had them for a while, and I'm wondering how reliable or how maintenance free are they? Because what we ran into
Right.
a couple of years ago with the cameras we put on that went on buses, at first they were a nightmare because there was no maintenance program with them.
Okay.
So,
that question I would not be able to answer. These figures and this system was a proposal from Mr. Robertson with OIT.
Are you using Cradle Point modems?
He's looking to do cradle point the vehicles, and then also, if you see out beside it, something called a VPN. We have a problem right now, especially when our officers are out in some of the outlying areas. They lose the connection to their laptop because we just have the little Verizon Air cards.
Yeah, the VPN is just, it's a software thing.
Well, basically, the best way he was able to describe it to me, and I'm not very technical. Basically, when you go to an area and you lose that connection, and then you go back into an area, our folks are having to completely shut the laptop down and pull it all back up. This would when you come back into service, it would automatically connect back, and they would have to shut down and bring everything back up. But that was his proposal for how to give us the GPS ability, plus give better connectivity in the vehicles.
Another question I have. Last year was the first year in a while you got a new vehicle, right?
The budget that we are currently in, we had one vehicle. Then prior to that, last year's budget, which would have been 13-14, we budgeted for a vehicle. But then also, if you recall, the development tax came in ahead of projections, and we were able to purchase another vehicle. We originally had in our capital expense to ask for 2 in the current year and then 2 for next year. By purchasing that one and kind of getting 2 in the same year out of development tax last year, that's got us back more on track where we need to be to keep on a replacement of 1 per year.
What's your oldest vehicle? Truck that goes out.
The oldest vehicle is a 2000 Dodge that has 198, I think, 1,000 miles on it.
Well, it's just getting broken in.
Just broken. Well, if you want to go back and tell line 338 that, because they were eating us alive at the garage. We took the oldest vehicle that I think had 210,000. It's now the spare. We had 2 vans that had, one of them had 198, the other one had, I think, 214. We surplus those just within the last couple of weeks.
Most of those vehicles, pickup trucks, or they vans?
We did have 3 vans. Now we're down to 1 van, and the rest of them are pickup trucks.
Next month, could you just bring us the years on them? How old they are? The mayor's looked. The mayor's looked at this budget.
Yes, sir. Sure. Carefully.
It's something that the mayor and I have talked about for some time regarding, and we've met with multiple members of the public regarding, they want to know, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you doing that to try to promote your animals and those type of things. This budget here, I guess in a sense, kind of been 4 years in the making as long as I've been here, because PR for a department such as ours is something that we're very lacking in. I mean, we send out press releases and those type things, but they come from me. I'm the one that does that. I'm not a PR person. I'm more nuts and bolts, animal control. This gets us where we need to be. 10 years ago, people wouldn't have thought of having a PR person in animal control, but where we are now, this is where we need to be.
It's probably helpful with your contributions too, I would say.
Having a PR person,
and doing the
definitely.
things like you've done with
Well,
pet snip and stuff like this.
Well, it's somebody that can get the word out to where I'm more, let's do the surgery, let's go pick up the animals, let's do this and that. This person's going to be geared on how to get the word out, promote these departments, promote the programs that we currently have, but also someone that has the know-how to come up with additional programs to get our name out there. The possibilities are unlimited, or can't be limited by any means. And again, it's using part-time folks, so we avoid the benefit costs associated with that.
Further questions for Mr. Gregory?
Move to accept the report and forward the budget.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Well, we took this one by acclamation.
You do acclamation.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Made it through the first.
Yes, sir. Again, I know that's a lot to digest. As you all study it, please give me a call or email me. I'd be more than happy to sit down and discuss further. I don't expect you to chew on all that this evening. You've got a lot to look at.
Well, this might be your fourth year, but it's your best budget, so you've kind of learned as the years have gone by too.
Yes, sir.
The large animal contract that we have, where do those animals go when that company comes out and collects them?
I'm not privy to that contract. It's not paid for out of our budget. That's with a company called Appertain. I wouldn't be able to answer that, Mayor. You might be.
Those animals go to the landfill.
Okay.
The contract that we have is for pickup of roadkill as well as the animals from the shelter.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do one question for you.
Sure.
These new part-time assistants,
Yes, sir.
how many hours a week?
Those are budgeted at 25 hours. Yes, sir. The breakdown of what we have, and these numbers have not gone through HR. What we were looking at was a PR assistant at $15 per hour, a surgery assistant at $12 per hour, and $10 an hour for the rescue behavior person. I can go into, if you'll give me 30 seconds, I'll go into more detail regarding each of those if you'd like.
Okay.
The PR assistant, I think that's fairly obvious. The surgery assistant, obviously, we have much more surgery capacity. We're just not very efficient in that area. All we have is our veterinarian and our vet tech. So the vet has to finish one surgery, go induce the next animal, and there's a little bit of downtime. By having the surgery assistant, we're going to add these 1,000 surgeries on top of what we've already done last year. This is going to make it to where basically Dr. Dills is going to finish with this surgery, turn around, the next surgery is ready, and she can keep going, so the flow is much better. The rescue behavior assistant, we'd like to bring someone in that can work more with our rescue groups for animals that can't necessarily go to our adoption floor because of behavior issues or whatnot, to have more of a one-on-one relationship with them, but also to be able to work with folks after they've adopted an animal. We have a lot of animals that are returned for various reasons. The cat doesn't use a litter box, the cat doesn't do this, or the dog doesn't get along well here. Someone that can take care of some of those issues and keep that animal in the home initially versus it being brought back to the shelter.
Thank you.
Right, sir? Yes, sir.
Okay, Correctional Work Center, Superintendent Salam.
Yeah, no. Should we go over the report first, or the report? Okay. Starts with the board meeting on February 2nd. Major highlights there were board appointed Ms. Mosby to be the vice chairperson. There was a vote on that, and there was no issues with that. She's been on the board at least 10 years or more. Went over expenditures. On the budget issue was we moved some money out of 413 to 499. Ordered to purchase hygiene items for inmates. And other business was the ACA audit, which as we speak is in progress. The auditors came in yesterday and started their inspection today. They'll be here through Wednesday. I think some of y'all should have gotten an invite to the exit interview. And the state litter pickup. Discuss those bills and collections and recidivism rates. What we went over with this commission on the last public safety meeting. And the work release program is going pretty good. And let's see, January we had 2 inmates hired full-time, 1 inmate hired full-time at Interlap, and we have 2 with some disciplinary issues, but currently we have 19 in the program, so it's still going strong. state letter pickup, we collected $4,417.05 for, that was January, February. And the work crews, showing the savings to the county. December, January combined was 115, 136. And then we have the yearly activity report. Shows the felon days, misdemeanor days, the average head count for January. GD, all that, those classes, programs are going great. And that's really it on the report. Just any questions about it?
What kind of felonies do you get to work center?
They have to have a split confinement, also have to be serving a misdemeanor sentence along with, and it's usually white collar or possession, nothing aggravated at all. They can't come over, they have an aggravated charge. So.
Any further questions on the report? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move.
We got a motion to approve. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right. The budget?
Yep, the fun part, right?
Yeah. There are nominal changes. Staffing stayed the same. Pretty much through all the lines. Like I said, very minor changes. Even the contracted services stayed the same. And we're requesting one vehicle. That's pretty much the brunt of it. And it's requesting less than last fiscal year. So.
Request was less than what?
This is less than last year's.
It's less than last year's amended budget, but I mean, it's a little bit. In that we had some grant money that was placed into the amended budget, $107,000. This particular year.
Yeah, doesn't all fit on one page, does it? This is what we get.
Do you want a copy?
Yeah, if you got one.
Yeah, because we thought that might be, anyone else might be an issue. Because it's like
There are pages,
Look,
two
you know,
pieces, and it's
Yeah, I was looking and I was seeing 14, 15, and it was way higher than the year before, and then.
I was looking at the end.
Okay.
Any substantial increases in any particular line item?
No.
Well, the last line item is a substantial change for us that never had one of these on this budget. 718. A new vehicle.
The vehicle.
35,000.
Yes, sir.
What's he getting, man? An SUV or something?
No, they've only got, I don't know how many vehicles, but they're very old for the most part. You might want to describe that to them.
Yes, we have 4 cars and they're all 2000 or earlier models. Everything is over 100,000 miles. We have 2 vans, same thing, 2000 models, and 2 buses that, you know, we're always trying to keep them running, but, you know, so this will help to have at least 1 new vehicle on the lot. But most of the vehicles, the mileage is accumulating, and with, you know, we're constantly doing maintenance to keep them up, so.
Those vehicles, like the SUV, is something like the Suburban that you usually use to take inmates out to collect trash, that kind of thing. Is that what those vehicles are for?
Transport. The vans are used to transport inmates, so are the buses. The 4 vehicles, for the most part, are used for officers going to transport inmates out to another facility, or they're going to class, you know, in-service training, those kind of things. So we'll check in on work crews when they go out, check on them different sites, because they go all over the county. So that's what they usually use them for. But the vans and the buses are mainly for the inmate transport.
This vehicle you're requesting is what, a van of some kind?
Whatever vehicle. We haven't really put any heavy thought on what kind of vehicle we're gonna get. You know, so we're just trying to request one, hopefully get passed, and then we'll look into it.
So the last column is 2015-16. It's department request, right?
Yes.
So tell me, okay, so because the car is 35,000 and you're showing a decrease of roughly 34,000, so that's 69,000. So where's up?
But the,
I'll
go
decrease
up
it.
to 312, contracts with private agencies. We don't have any money for that grant in this budget because we don't, and we amended $107,000 into the current year. That's what made that 3,997. So if you want to look at the number, look at the original budget compared to this budget. Which is a little less than 100,000 to take 35 off, so you've got $65,000 of miscellaneous increases, largely step increases, and employee insurance is $22,000 increases, so it's basically employees and benefits.
Okay, outside of a truck. The other contracted services includes Dr. Rudd, which
Yes.
is, you've got down, the total is 800,000, just like it was last year. But does his contract call for going up a little bit each year?
No, we had originally.
It did at the sheriff's office. It had
It
an
doesn't
increase.
here?
I don't remember it. I don't think there's an increase, not an automatic increase.
There wasn't any this year.
Okay, okay. That's what I was wondering, because I knew somewhere in my mind.
Yeah, he didn't.
It was in the sheriff's
increases
office.
also.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Superintendent Solandi? Were you the one that wrote the explanations in? I don't know, right?
No, I'm just,
Just to have a little humor.
all right.
Item 411, if you want to look at it, it's data processing supplies, and look over the explanation at the end.
Oh,
Okay.
pass that, Brian.
It's on the second page, about a third of the way down. 54220-411, data processing supplies. It says the explanation is some printers are past their prime.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how many printers do you have
Oh,
for $7,000?
well, that's a lot of it too, is buying the supplies for them. The cartridges, and then sometimes they need to be serviced, which a lot of times, you know, we'll go through the IT department, but they might need some part or something, so. But that's all that is, so just the upkeep of, we don't buy any, we haven't had a new one in quite some time, it's just to keep them going.
Utilities are staying the same. So when that grant comes through,
From here to here.
it'll be coming through this year for
I just pulled them in.
contract. Item 312.
The grant?
Yeah, it says grant.
Yes.
You get a grant to help with some contracts?
This is the mental health grant, it's already came through.
Okay.
We just want to make sure it's on there, so you don't know.
So we had it on. So it's gonna take it over 4 of the total budget then with it, because it's gonna be about the same as last year.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any further questions, Superintendent? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to accept and forward the budget.
We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, this is probably a good thing to keep, so just to look at. Further, you know, we got more of these next month, and then when the sheriff comes, just to get a little familiar with how everything is, and you can look on this, big enough you can read it. He's been around long enough. Okay, thank you. Let's do the cats.
This evening, I have 3 things. Of course, my regular report, budget amendment for this year, and of course, present my budget for next year. Our report is in front of you. I'd like to draw your attention to page 2, down near the bottom. Like I said, a few things there. The fixed communication site update, which I was calling the tower site update, but someone told me who's intimately familiar with this, quit calling it tower sites because we're not building towers. So that would be, you know. Anyway, but anyway, we kind of slowed down on that only because of the weather has gotten in the way. There's some things you can do outside hanging off a tower, and some things you can't, or it's not advisable. So things have slowed down as the weather gets better. We continue to work on the Hudson and Bradyville sites. However, there is some other tweaking that's going on with the other sites that already are operational. We just, as you just voted on in the full commission, the $68,168 for the 2014 Homeland Security Grant received. I have a budget amendment for that to add that back in to cover those 4 projects. And also, we're continuing our planning for the Smyrna Preparathon, which is March 16th to the 21st. And just to plug it, we're having an exercise on the 20th, which is Friday, or they are. And we're supporting them, and they're having an expo at the town center there'll be different things there. We'll be there pushing a couple of the programs that we utilize. One is Alert Rutherford. They'll have all kind of folks there to help get people prepared for the impending tornado season. It's kind of hard to think about that right now, I know, with what we just went through, but yes, tornado season is right around the corner. On the next page here, this was the grant that y'all gave us approval to put in for. It's the Clean Energy Grant. We've been asked to go ahead and, the way they did it is we submitted an initial application. They look at everyone's and then they tell you after you submit the initial whether you made it through the first hoop. We did, so we're completing the rest. And all that's going to involve is we're going to upgrade what we want to do is upgrade the lights in the EOC and the rest of the building to LEDs. The payback on that will be 2.5 years. And also fix the roof. The dome portion of the roof, which is not under warranty at this point, does leak. Part of what we're doing here is improving its insulation value as well. And the payoff on that, if I remember correctly, was about 10 years, a little bit less of a savings there. But the real key that I was trying to do is I knew we was going to have to spend money to fix the leaking roof. And I figure this is a 50% match. Go ahead and do that as well at the same time. One thing we were looking at was replacing our HVAC systems, but the payback on that was 85 years, so we pulled it out, okay? Still, at some point, I believe maintenance is going to have to come back and, because this is not my building solely, we share it with solid waste as well as maintenance, vehicle maintenance in the lower part of the building. We just took the lead on this, but at some point we're going to do something about your HVAC. I was just trying to figure a way to get somebody else to pick up half of it, and it didn't work that way. Other than that, under response, we had about 3 illegal burns that we were asked to come out on and took care of. We also, of course, last week spent a lot of our time responding and manning the EOC. We came in early on Monday, right before the storm hit, and partially activated the EOC and monitored things throughout the week. There were 2 big points, Monday, Tuesday, which was our initial hit, and then Thursday we got hit with a second one, if you remember. The second one really worried us because of the ice we already had on the ground and what was coming. I think we dodged a bullet there. We didn't get as bad as we could have. We still got quite a bit of ice. I think we had a 1/2 inch of sleet and a 1/2 inch to up to an inch of freezing rain in some places across the county. However, because we, and when I say we, I don't mean just EMA, I mean all your public safety in the county, we got the word out early and often. And there were some smart things that were done, right down to the individual citizens deciding to stay off the road, businesses that closed so that they wouldn't endanger their employees or their customers. The school system, which I know they didn't want to close for a solid week, but they did, and that kept people out of the way. Our 2 biggest dangers, of course, was folks on the road and, of course, the power outages. We did have a lot of power outages throughout the county, but none of them stayed down that long. I want to say the longest I had heard one was maybe 4 or 5 hours. And like I said, we had no request from anyone to open the shelter that we had. So overall, I think we did very well. I think it's because this is one of those instances where we knew it was coming, we were able to get the word out, and we've got smart citizens.
I was over in Williamson County yesterday, and they had it twice as bad as we did. As close as they are, they had twice as much ice still around. It was amazing. And
some of the advantage we have is we kind of track what happens in Williamson and Hickman and goes out west. We kind of see what's coming our way, so we know what we're going to get hit with and start preparing in that way. You kind of using everybody else for a speed bump, but that's just the way it works.
Yeah. it's good work being ahead of that curve like that.
Illegal burns.
Yes, sir.
Were any of them fined for those?
Our role in this is not the fining, because I don't have the ability to fine people, is that if it's a hazardous material, that's why we get called out, is to involve TDEC so that they can come in and do their thing and force the property owner to do a cleanup. But right now, I don't know off the top of my head whether there were any fines given for any of those three, because that's just not a function. We get called in by either law enforcement or by the fire department because we're the linkage to the state and TDEC.
The chief is the one that can write
Yes, sir.
the tickets for
Yes,
them. Other when I saw the plastics
Yes.
in there, which is, I don't know, do they have it? Hazardous necessarily a plastic?
It's not a smart thing to burn. I mean, it's illegal.
Yeah. Well, also there was the one that burnt down the person's garage and singed some stuff on the neighbors.
Yes, that wasn't a good one. That didn't make anybody happy. But that's my report for this month, subject to your questions.
Any questions for TK? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to accept the report.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we'll do the budget amendment first.
Yes. What you see before you is a budget amendment. The biggest thing on here is that Homeland Security grant, putting that under line 790 other equipment, which is where we normally put the Homeland Security grant money. There are 4 projects, which I explained last month, that we have going on for the Homeland Security projects. What this means is those agencies can come to us and start spending the money. And I kind of push them that since these are planned projects and they should already know what they want, I don't want to spend the next 2 years talking about the 2014 Homeland Security grant. I want to take the money, spend it as it's intended, and let's move on to what's next. The rest of it is vehicles are getting kind of old, and I had to move some money around to cover the maintenance for the rest of the year. Based on my current run rate, I need to move $2,500, and I chose to move it out of data processing equipment for both these line items, the equipment and the vehicles, is because data processing, we were under the impression late in the year, around budget time last year, that we're going to have to replace a large copier printer, but I found out I can get a few more years of what I got. So we're able to, that line item ended up being more money than I ended up needing for that purpose. Also, we have these generators at the fixed sites. We've been told that one of them needs some maintenance on it. We're running out of money in that line item. And not only do we have to do the maintenance on that, but we have a regularly scheduled maintenance on it in April that we have to do. And if those generators go out, those fixed site facilities, you have no power, and obviously you don't have any power, emergency power at that point. Which, by the way, the one at Lynch Hill ran about 33 hours over the past week because of what's going on there as far as the storm and everything. And it was kind of funny. Every time you see an outage in that part of the Duck River Electrical Company, our tower went down. So, and then we get notices that the generator is up and it's working. But there's a small problem with that, preventative type thing we got to do. Plus, we have a regularly scheduled preventive maintenance check. We do those twice a year. They run us per site about $300 a site, where they come in and check, make sure they're going to run. So we decided it would be best to move $500 over there to try to cover the rest of that.
You heard the request. The only new money is from the federal government by virtue of Homeland Security grant. So if there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley,
Abstain.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes. Okay.
All right, our budget for next year, I like colors because they're simple for me. As you look on there, you'll see one column in blue is a percentage increase and decrease. If it's blue, it's the personnel costs that I really don't have a lot of control over, but just that's there for informational purposes. Anything that's in green is a good story. That means I was able to cut it some. Anything that's in red means I'm asking for more. And I will tell you that my budget did go up this year, and it's tied to a couple of things. One, finishing the fixed site communications project. We're asking for another $145,000 on that, on a line item I'll discuss later. And also, we would like to purchase a vehicle. Now, some of these other costs that are in red are related to the fixed site communications. Maintenance agreements. Now that we built this great communications net, we have to maintain it. And we are looking into maintenance contract with Motorola or some other company of that type to maintain just the communications equipment itself. Now, since this project is taking a while, about half the equipment out there is going to come out from under warranty in December of this year. So we're asking for the $60,500 to cover that. I will tell you that next year that will probably go up some more to cover the remaining equipment that's coming off of warranty. And that's that's line 334, maintenance agreements. The next line, which is a much smaller amount, we've noticed that out at these sites that we have some roof repairs and things that we need to do. We think we can cover it with $2,000. That right there is what that's for. Line 336, which is $9,000. There are some things that Motorola won't do, and one of those things is antennas, feed lines, etc. that go in and out of the building. We would like to budget $9,000 for any repairs or anything that we need to do that. That's something that we will either do ourselves or contract someone locally to do as needed. Vehicle maintenance and repairs. Our vehicles are 13 years old, and I'm having to do some more and more repairs. As a matter of fact, I just asked y'all for a budget amendment, as you just approved, where I increased my amount for this year. And if you remember and you look at the sheet, the year before, I came up with $1,000. Seems like it's going up a little bit every year. And it's really not about the money, it's about having those vehicles available when we need them. Of all your public safety agencies, we're probably called out the least, okay? But we're just like everyone else. When we need to be there, we need to have a vehicle under us that will get us there. And ours are getting long in the tooth. I don't want to replace all three of them. That's a different line number. I'll get to that here in a minute, but I don't want to replace all three in 1 year. But it is becoming more expensive to maintain these three vehicles. Printing and stationery forms, we want to go up a little bit on that. That's a small amount because we're printing brochures and things for such things as Alert Rutherford and make them look professional so we can pass them out to people. Because we're finding out just telling people about Alert Rutherford, don't get them to sign up. I got to hand you a piece of paper so you can go online and do your thing. Or a little QR code where you can take your smartphone and hit on that. Lost my place. All right, here we go. Leases. Some of the sites we own, but some we do not. And as we start paying those leases, those amounts are going up, and we want $7,500 to cover the leases for that. We also have down on line 399, which is other contracted services. We have some other software, such as our weather software that we need to have updated. And something else for these fixed site communications is grass grows there too, and we need to get someone to go out there and weed eat and poison when necessary, and keep those things where we can get around to them and do the work that we need. To include, make sure that we can drive up the road. So that's what that money's for. On the second page, the next item that's in red is is probably our largest increase, and that line includes $145,000 to complete the fixed site communication project as we now see it.
if that's approved, will it come out of next year's budget? Will next year's budget go down?
Yes, sir. After that, that's a one-time cost. Now, I say that, but as far as the maintenance agreements to maintain this stuff, I'm still looking at, I'm asking about $60,000 this year for it. I can see that being a $100,000 tab every year for a company such as a subsidiary of Motorola or a partner with Motorola to maintain our equipment going forward. And remember, this isn't just for EMA. This is for all your public safety county level. Someone's going to have to pay for it. I got the rose pinned on me right now. And also I have the expert in the shop right now, as long as he'll stay, who will help guide us and to make sure we don't spend too much money in these areas.
I might just say a couple of things. We've got part of the system in, and this additional monies that we're asking for is to add fire and EMS receivers. As we put stuff on the air, we've seen places that not quite doing what we want it to do. We'd like to put fire and EMS receivers out at the Bradable site. They're not currently budgeted. Also at Murfreesboro's new site at Walter Hill. We want to leave Eagleville as a permanent site, and also add simulcast on the Sheriff's 2 channels at 2 additional sites. So that's basically, and some money to tie our system into Murfreesboro's new system that they'll be starting this year. And we should be able to accomplish that by fall, because we can have everything ready to go. And I think the system will be really greatly enhanced by spending this additional money while we're doing it, and it won't be any cheaper. And I'll say one more thing, is that we as a commission and the county as departments need to start planning continue planning for the future, because we really never should have gotten to the point where we got when I came here. That's all I have to say.
You mentioned that as I've had the opportunity to ride around maybe with the Eagle Fire Department out there and some of those in that area, that's a very delicate area out there as far as communication is concerned, due to the hills and the area out there. But Rutherford County in total, we're no longer a CB radio county. We're getting a society here that expects results in what we're doing. And it's good to see that we're putting in this type of system here when it comes to, I would say, the lives of our citizens, as well as our emergency people that are going out here making these calls. But when you're standing there, or when you're around some of these volunteer firemen or our full-time firemen, and I know over there at Eagle, when those radios come up that they wasn't expecting to come up when they started working, it was a good feeling, because those guys needed it. Because they'd been out there at night when they couldn't call for help and things of this type, and we're getting this starting to work now. It's not a time to step back. And it'll be a cost that we'll continue to have, because we have got to be where we can protect these individuals that's trying to protect us. And I think it's something that's going to be there that we'll have to continue to look at. But that was just one thing that I see. I guess I'm the newbie on this commission that looks at these things, and that's some of the things I'm seeing.
And sir, and everything starts with communication and it ends with communication. The better we can communicate, the better we can head things off well in advance. So if we're going to spend money on something, communication is probably key. There's one more line on there that is, of course, in the red, and that is what I mentioned before. We have 3 response vehicles. I drive one. It's a Tahoe. Mr. Gurley drives one. He drives a pickup truck, and so does Tim Hooker, my assistant director. at any given time, one of us is on call. Right now, I happen to be on call, so if I get texted out, y'all forgive me. If I just, no, I'm just joking. It won't happen here. But these vehicles are 13 years old. They have about 140,000 miles on them at this point, but the problem is the overall age of them. They're getting to the point where they're costing me more in maintenance, but that's really not the bigger issue. The bigger issue is they need to go when we need them to go. We actually, last year with all the ice and stuff, last week, excuse me, with all the ice and things, one of the trucks had a little trouble with getting into four-wheel drive. So now we're starting to have drivetrain problems. That same vehicle, and Mr. Gurley has to do his this week too, is the steps on the side, we've just flat removed them because they're rusting through, and at some point we'll be dragging them down the highway. I mean, those are little cosmetic things, but overall they're just getting to the point where we need to do something. What I'd like to do is, because technology has changed since we bought these vehicles and also our needs have changed, is we want to go to a smaller vehicle similar to the Ford Explorer you see the Sheriff's Office and others drive. That model, and we can get that for about $35,000 and outfitted. It'll be cheaper to run, you get better gas mileage than what we're getting right now, and still meet all the needs that we have as an EMA. I'd like to buy one this year, and yes, I'm going to come back to you once a year for the next 3 years, because when they bought all three of these in 1 year, that was probably because there was money available, but to me, buying all your vehicles 1 year never makes sense because they're all going to wear out at the same time. And we really don't, I want to get out of that habit. So we're going to take the others together for another couple of years, but I am going to ask you next year and the year after that to replace the vehicle, then skip a few years and then try to spread these out. But that is the other thing that we have on here. And yes, did you see the bottom line that my budget has gone up? Some of that is at $145,000, which is a one-time cost. But if it helps, last year and my first year when I came in here, we did reduce my budget some, but I knew that wasn't going to last. We reduced it by about 6% last year, which was a little bit of struggle, but I knew I'd have to come in here this year and ask y'all for some money for the fixed site communications and start replacing our vehicles. And subject to your questions, that's my budget.
Basically, the whole increase is on those two line items.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maintenance agreements and the communications equipment, which is imperative to the continuation of this work and their maintenance and upkeep of it.
Well, if you take those one-time things out, though, like that 145, if you take that out, you're actually talking about a 10 to 11% increase in budget, and that includes vehicles and stuff.
And includes that maintenance increase that's starting now.
Which makes it much more plausible, I guess.
Well, the communication equipment, can it be looked at from the development tax?
Yeah, I have a note on that. This will all determine on how we project all the capital needs, and we will use development tax for capital needs, and whether this is one of them or not, we don't know, but it will be a candidate. And Mr. Gurley may have to give us the exact numbers, but please remember that we've spent in excess of, what, $2 million, Mr. Gurley, on this communication?
Somewhere around $2.5 million.
$2.5 million, $2 million of which was a grant that we received from the 911 board and that operation. So it's nominal, in the scope of things, nominal county general money has been put into this project.
If you just look at the total budget, you're talking about $750,000 compared to some other departments that are asking for that are much more than that. And I don't think this thing can help it go up. It's just like our fire department now. It can't help it go up.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, especially when we talk about radio communications,
Yeah,
like Joe said, it ain't going to get cheaper tomorrow.
We were just probably 10 years behind when we started.
Yes,
or more.
we're finally getting to where we can,
Yes, sir.
crews can be in contact with each other throughout the county and not have the dead spots like we had for years and this type of thing. Okay. Any more questions for Mr. Cass?
I have a concern that if we take something like that out of the request will come in after the budget's approved. The Sheriff Department has done that a number of times this year, where his response related to I had it in there, you guys took it out, now I'm putting it back in. And those are games that I just don't want to go with and don't want to play with. And this type of an expense is something that is necessary and needed, and with that, I move to accept the recommendation and pass it on to budget.
Second motion.
Think of tacking on to your motion maybe which we'll do anyhow, but just to say, to see if there is money available in a development tax pay for that item.
I think it's already earmarked for that if we can, but that's needed, yes.
Well, I
We'll
just think
use all that we possibly can, spread it across any number of departments.
It looks like that development tax, at least revenue expectations for that development tax are going up next year as
But they've gone up the last 2 years.
Yeah, they have.
This year, we're sort of flat. I mean, lots of apartments have been built the previous year, and not as many of those are coming along, even though our single-family dwellings are increasing.
they are.
Any further questions? Let's just call the roll on this one.
Commissioner Gurley,
I'll abstain on this.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any further business?
Let me ask a quick question. We've gone for the department heads not having to present their report. Is there an opportunity for us to communicate those reports in advance, put them on a consent agenda and vote for that consent agenda, just like we're doing in the full commission now? Is that possible?
I think we've done that in the past.
Yeah, we have. But if we could do that, it would keep us from going through every report and looking at it after we get here and just putting it on a little consent thing and voting on that if they're not going to be here to answer questions anyway. And I think that's the right thing to do. But if we could change that process a little bit and have those on the consent agenda, especially if they could be put out in advance and we could look at them in advance. That way we could draw them off of that consent agenda if we had questions and ask them then.
That's a good thought. Well, Sheriff mentioned that he wanted to stop by out there before, to see his problems, before one of our meetings or sometime. But I'm wondering if we went out before the next meeting, the meeting we have in March, and we do these, could set it up and go out maybe at 4:30. I'm wondering how that works with most people.
Give me the March, Stephen.
Yeah, whatever the fourth Monday is in March. Okay. No, not March 7th. I don't think he'll be caring for us. Would that work? That we could
I
have?
won't be there.
Hmm?
I can't be there at 4:30.
Okay. So you were driving the bus, huh?
That's right.
Okay. Well, maybe I can set it up for the rest of us and
I go any other
time. You know, when you get in the morning or something, if you keep them honest, then
Won't be a
so
problem.
they can't cover something up or something like that, right?
Would that hour be enough for us to go through and then get back here for the meeting?
Well, we should be able to get through there, I think, in 45 minutes.
Okay.
If we, you know,
But
if our stuff's together.
That's March 23rd.
March 23rd. Yeah, it's the same day, same night as today. 28 days in February, right? So I think we can go at meet at 4:30. I'll tell him to just have it ready then. So, and if you can put that in the minute on the agenda when it's sent out next time. We'll
Okay.
meet at 4:30.
4:30 for a tour, sure. Okay.
Okay. Any other business? Okay, we are adjourned.